Hello.
Okay, I think we are at a point where we can get started here. First, thank you all for coming up today. We really appreciate it. This is a great place to be on a Saturday afternoon, I believe. A little warm, although, but a lot nicer than down in the valley. Just curious, how many of you, this is your first time up to the YBRA camp? That's what we like to see. That's great. So, welcome, and I think we have a pretty good program for you today. I'll keep my part as short as I can. Who are you? Oh, yeah.
Some guy.
So, I'm Matt Knight, and recently became president of the YBRA in April. I've only been with YBRA about 3 years now. YBRA itself is quite an august organization, I guess you'd call it. We're coming up on our 90th anniversary here in Red Lodge. So it's quite a, if you think this is an event, wait till next summer. We're going to plan a pretty good party for that. I'm sorry, I didn't say this. I'll dance back and forth. So I'll be kicking off. I'll keep it short. We did want to give you a little bit of history around YBRA, and one of those folks is Phil Robertson, who's been involved here for many, many years. He's here with us today, and we're very happy to have him. So he'll give us a little historical perspective, and then, of course, our keynote speaker, Dave Moak, talking about our favorite set of mountains back behind us here. So hopefully a very good afternoon. And like I said, I won't take up too much of that time, but I do want to introduce you a little bit to YBRA. As I said, we've been here since 1936, and our mission is really to advance education and research in science. And we just had a conversation last year about we need to update that mission. Is that still the right thing? Because that largely goes back to 1936. We actually settled that it's a pretty good place to be because we really care about science in general. We're focused on geology and ecology and things like that, but we're really based in science, and we want to support that. Our vision, though, I think is really where we live, because we want to make the experience here something that is special for people, that serves their purposes, that gives them the best educational opportunity with what has kind of become a life-altering experience for a lot of people. That's one thing that has amazed me in the short time I've been associated with YBRA is you get emails out of the blue from people. I was there in 1962 and it changed my life, and just over and over and over we hear things like that, and that really strikes me in my soul. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, again founded in 1936. Actually by the Princeton Geology Department. So the Princeton Geology Group, and there's more than just Princeton involved in that. They did a lot of the foundational geologic research in this area. Those of you, we got some Stillwater mining folks here that that they did a lot of work on the Stillwater complex and really set the foundation here. They ran their field camp out of here for years and years and years. And then eventually the camp was turned over to the 501c3, and we've been running it since. We are listed on the National Historic Register. You probably saw the sign out in front. We are actually undertaking a historic restoration here. As gravity works pretty well, a little bit of the building has started sliding down the hill, so we're going to be doing some of that. Greg Creasy, our camp manager, has been spending a lot of time under the porch here. And then we're going to do some work on the logs and everything here that's been funded by a grant. So we're very happy about that. All of the board of directors are volunteers. We do have our staff here in camp. As I mentioned, I like to say amazing because he hates that word, but our amazing camp manager, Greg Creasy. Head housekeeper Peggy Kim in the back there, and then our chef Eliza and Miles Oborn, who are back in the kitchen. Hi, Eliza. How you doing? They'll have some good stuff out for us at the end of the afternoon. So what do? Several folks coming in the door kind of asked that, and we really host educational and research groups here on the campus. Our biggest contingent is University Geology Field Camp. So we have field camps coming in from all over the country. I'll show you a list here in a little bit, but they're here, some are here for 3 or 4 days, some are here for their entire field camp of 6 weeks or more. So it's pretty variable, but we have a lot of students come through, and then our other big client is Elevation Science Institute, who is just finishing up here at camp. They provide opportunities for citizen scientists to come out. They have big fossil digs out around Powell, digging up big dinosaur bones, so people can sign up, come out for a week, dig up dinosaurs, and have a good time here at YBRA. So we bring in a lot of diverse groups. We also provide Earth Sciences outreach educational programs. We'll talk about those in a second. And then occasionally we host different events here as well. As you can see, this is kind of a fun place to have an event. We have alumni events. We have different college events. We've hosted a couple weddings over the years, so a lot of diverse opportunities. Most of our clients are repeat business. Some of the universities have been coming here for many, many years, kind of following right along after the Princeton group left. And then, of course, networking through geologic organizations. We've gotten pretty good on a social media basis here in the last few years, and so our outreach is growing quite a bit. And most of our income comes from groups coming in. We charge a fee for staying here, obviously, and so that basically covers the cost of running the camp. However, we do rely on donations, either through grants or from generous individuals such as you in the room, to fund, we just put an addition on one of the wash houses, we built new cabins, all those kind of things. Any of that type of construction or refurbishment, typically we have to go out and seek funding for that. That isn't covered by our revenue coming in from the camp. There's about 35 buildings here on campus, 35 living quarters, I guess. There's 3 wash houses. You can kind of see the main wash house is just right up the hill here. A couple of you made the visit there. That was built in 1936 along with the lodge here and a few of the cabins. That was kind of the core of the camp. And then it's expanded from there. Marathon Wash House, if you parked out at the end of the world there, you walk right past that. That's been there, and then we've just added an addition to that in the last couple of years here. And then there's various dormitories, and then we have 3 different classroom facilities as well. You can kind of see them out on the bottom left corner there. 2 study halls, and then the library, which is also out around the point. So it's a nice facility for field groups to come in. We have really good Wi-Fi here. We have better Wi-Fi than I have at home, which annoys me greatly. But we have Wi-Fi. We have hot meals, breakfast and dinner. We make lunches for groups. They have places to study, so it's a pretty quick setup. I remember when I did my field camp, we camped in the back of a pickup for 6 weeks, and that's not a lot of fun. Quite a nice spot. This is the outline of the National Historic District. It doesn't actually cover all of our property. but the majority of the buildings are covered underneath that, and in particular the lodge and the main wash house are kind of the core features of the National Historic designation. This is just a sample of the groups that have been here in the last couple of years. So Elevation Science, they are our largest single client, and we're very happy to have them. University of Houston is our largest university client. They are essentially the descendant of the Princeton field course. They do a similar course that was done here for many, many years through Princeton, and has kind of continued that basically through Princeton alumni moving to different universities. So that's a great, great continuity there. And then we have Southern Illinois, Penn State. Those are long-term clients here as well. And then we have a lot of different groups coming through, and we've gained several new clients. You can kind of just see the whole gamut there. A lot from out east. Nice out here because you can actually see the rocks versus having to dig through the trees and bushes out in the eastern part of the country. So folks like coming out here. This year, approximation, we had about 400 people come through camp. So that's 2,800 overnight stays here. Typically, it's about a week-long visit on average. So that's a lot of groups, a lot of folks coming through Red Lodge. You know, geologists, the beer consumption will go pretty well for that. The big reason why this place exists and why it is successful is because of where we are and the opportunities that exist geologically within an hour's drive of this site. Dave will be talking extensively about the Beartooth and the Precambrian geology there. I worked for many years on the Stillwater complex. Obviously Yellowstone, there's a ton of opportunity there, and then you get out into Elk Basin, you know, petroleum production. There's huge fossil opportunities, so it's an amazing spot here geologically, just because of the variety of situations that you can get to within, like I say, within an hour's drive here. So that's the big reason the camp exists and has continued to exist for so many years. It's a pretty unique spot. As I said, our core is geology field courses. That's been the history here forever and ever, and we hope it will continue to be. Honestly, it's becoming a bit more of a challenge. You know, with AI and satellites and GPS, a lot of people don't think it's that important to actually put your feet out on the ground and look at rocks. And we're pretty adamantly opposed to that idea, as you might expect. But geology enrollment is dropping. Universities are dropping geology programs. It's kind of odd because we hear all the time about, oh, critical minerals, and we've got to get out there and find them. And yet you see this decline in the people who are going to be doing that. So hopefully we see a reversal. That's been a cycle over years in geology, that enrollments go up and down, and so hopefully we'll see an upturn. We're still doing fine, but it's an upturn. For those of you from Stillwater, that's Kevin Butak in the center there, in his younger days. And you can see the bottom right corner, that's a typical evening meal on a busy day here at YBRA. So we might have 3 different schools in camp at one time. And so it's a cool opportunity for them to interact and get to know each other and trade ideas and all that kind of good stuff. This is the Elevation Science Group. As I said, they do most of their work out around Powell. I still have not gotten out to their top secret location, but they're actually, their last group just left this morning, and they're packing up their findings from this summer. Big old dinosaur bones encased in plaster and everything. And they work with Cincinnati Museum of Natural History, I believe. So there's a partnership there that's where those samples eventually end up. A couple of events that we've started recently and that we're quite proud of. We do a science teachers workshop here It's in collaboration with a group called Ripple that is associated with Montana Tech. And we bring in 12 to 15 high school science teachers and conduct courses with them. This year I got to be up here for an afternoon when they were here, and it was really cool. They started over in Butte, and they looked at the Clarks Fork River, which has been heavily impacted by industrial pollution. And they did water samples. They looked at all the flora and fauna that they were finding in those samples. And they came over here and looked at Rock Creek, which is largely pristine. And they were doing a comparison of those two in terms of, what are they seeing. It was just great to see teachers have that opportunity to do some real science, and then they leave here with curriculum that they can take back to their classrooms and teach to other teachers. That's a big part of it too. It's kind of a pyramid sort of thing. Train one, who can train two more, who can train five more. So great. That is funded by donations through the Red Lodge Fun Run, which is coming up here soon. There is a QR code on the refrigerator right there. If you care to donate to that, I'll just mention that. And we've also had some generous alumni donations that fund the Teachers Workshop. We've also started doing geology tours out at Tippett Rise, the art facility, if you're familiar with that. You see an old fat guy there pretending to be a geologist out at an outcrop. That's me. And so we have 4 different stops around that property talking about, it's pretty basic geology, but it's quite interesting. We get into some really interesting discussions with folks on those tours. Those come out, they typically make them available early spring on the Tippett Rise website if you're interested in doing anything like that. They do sell out in a hurry, which is kind of fun. And that's funded by a grant from the Sidney Frank Foundation, which operates Tippett Rise. Like I said, we've hosted a few other events here. This is, I think, the big wedding that was hosted several years ago. We don't really do anything other than provide the facility, but it's kind of fun to see anyway. Just a quick look at our finances. Our finance guy put this together, so I have to talk about it. You can see about 80% of our revenue comes from room and board from our clients, 16% donations, and then we have a little bit of money in the bank, so we make some money off of that. And then almost all of that goes back out. You can see we're feeling the pinch just like any other business out there. Wages are going up. Insurance is really going up. That's become a real problem for us and a lot of folks. Sitting up here on top of the mountain, maintenance is an ongoing and never-ending responsibility, so that obviously costs some money. Food debt. We like good food. We've found that that's one of the big things. You better have good food if you want people to enjoy their stay here. So we focus on that, but just to give you an idea of how this place actually runs, there is a business side to it, and so far we're doing well. We're hanging in there, but we have to be diligent about that and be sure that we're staying on top of things. So looking ahead, as I mentioned, we have our 90th anniversary coming up next summer, so we are starting to plan some events around that. We'll have another open house like this, probably same time of year, and bring in also hopefully getting a lot of our alumni to come back and visit after many years, so that's an exciting thing. If anybody's interested, if you're kind of intrigued by what goes on here, we love to have volunteers, especially local folks, whether that's on our advisory board, like to get on to the regular board, or just do some volunteer work with us, that would be great. And working on fundraising, again, buildings and infrastructure is always a challenge. There's always work to be done. And we're looking to build our endowment, honestly, so that we have kind of a sustaining source of income over time and don't have to be doing as much work bringing donations in all the time. And then, as I mentioned, we love to continue to support any kind of educational program that we're associated with. So that's where our money is going. And we hope you have a great afternoon here. And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to turn it over to Greg Creasy, Where's Craig? Has he left the room? Yeah, let's see. Is he doing some work? Greg, are you here? Yeah. Well, I will go ahead and do a poor introduction of Phil Robertson here, who is a long-term associate of YBRA. He taught here doing field courses for many years, and we asked him to come in and give some perspective on history and his experiences here. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil. He's going to stay in his chair here and give us a little bit of background on how things at YBRA have gone in the past. Yeah, I don't think you can. Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here. I have to say that some of the best summers of my life were spent right here in this field station. I want to give you a little background as to how this all came about. He asked me to do some history, and I said, the only history I know is the history of the time I was involved in this camp, which started in 1973. I grew up in the desert Southwest, where it's really dry. And went to Colorado State, got my PhD, took a job in upstate New York for 2 years, and then I got a permanent position at Southern Illinois University. That was pretty overwhelming. That was a big school in those days. And the first summer there, I thought I was going to die.